I'm going to turn now to a monumental legal case unfolding in a small country town in Pennsylvania. A boy there could soon become the youngest murder defendant ever to be tried as an adult. It's a case that could affect how children around the country are treated by courts. And this morning, the boy's father is speaking out for the first time in an emotional interview. Juju Chang is here again with that GMA exclusive.
Well, George, Chris Brown is an intensely private man and has resisted talking publicly about this very high-profile case until now. His 12-year-old son, Jordan, has been detained more than a year awaiting a judge's ruling as to whether he'd be tried as a juvenile or as an adult. If found guilty in adult court, Jordan would become the youngest person in the history of the United States to be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
It's the portrait of an all-American 11-year-old in full bloom.
An all-around good kid, big into sports, a lot of friends in school.
Quarterback of the Pee Wee football team, a good student, but now a life interrupted.
It happened inside this Pennsylvania farmhouse.
You wouldn't even think in your worst nightmare that you'd have to charge an 11-year-old with homicide.
On February 20th, 2009, Jordan's soon-to-be stepmother, Kenzie Hauk, was found dead, shot in the head in this rural farmhouse. She was 8.5 months pregnant. Prosecutors quickly built a case against Jordan, accusing him of using his shotgun, a hunting gift from his dad, to fire one fatal bullet before getting on the bus for elementary school. Within 24 hours, the 5th grader was arrested for double homicide.
What was going through your mind as you're witnessing your son being taken away?
Scared, frightened, crying. Jordan's never been away from me for any length of time since he was born.
Jordan's dad continues to proclaim his son's innocence, but the family of Kenzie Hauk have reportedly described Jordan as angry and jealous. The new woman in his father's life was about to have a son, already named Chris after his dad.
The first time you saw him incarcerated, what was that moment like for you?
He looked like a baby in an orange jumpsuit in an adult jail.
Do you think he understands the magnitude of what he stands accused of?
He seems to understand it, but he doesn't appreciate the magnitude of it. He's simply too young.
Too young, many argue, to face the prospect of an adult sentence. Kids charged with murder in Pennsylvania are automatically charged as adults. Only a judge's decision can move the trial to juvenile court. If convicted, the two routes have radically different sentences, either life in prison without parole or juvenile detention and freedom with no record at age 21. Currently, Pennsylvania has more juveniles sentenced to life in prison without parole than any other state.
I'm not sure it's that we think they should be treated like adults, but I think it is what they've done is so heinous. We're troubled with the idea of treating them just as if they're a kid.
And yet, his dad argues Jordan is a kid, one who enjoys Harry Potter, and until recently wasn't completely sure if Santa exists. What's more, adolescent brains, according to recent research, are not yet fully developed, especially in the frontal lobes, which control decision-making, risk-taking, impulse control. It's that research that's influenced a Supreme Court case that banned the death penalty for juveniles in 2005.
Let me just play devil's advocate for a second. Why shouldn't he be punished as an adult?
In the juvenile versus adult system, it's the individual and whether that person is amenable to juvenile rehabilitation. In Jordan's case, he's clearly amenable to juvenile rehabilitation because of his lack of history of any problems, any juvenile delinquency.
The judge must now decide. It's the crux of a national debate on juvenile justice, playing out in a small-town courthouse.
Let's say that the ruling goes in Jordan's favor and he's ruled to stand trial as a juvenile. How would you react?
Obviously happy, but then, you know, we still face the task of proving his innocence at the trial.
A long road for a dad who's already drained his life savings, spending $900 a week on gas to make the daily 4-hour round trip to visit his detained son.
You're a man who should have a wife and kids right now, and you're alone.
Yeah, wow.
How do you keep your spirits up in all this?
I have no choice. I have to stay strong for my son.
You can see Chris Brown's life has been shattered. He's moved in with his mother to save money, and his family and loved ones have rallied around him as he focuses on standing behind his son. His friends have helped launch a website called Save Jordan Brown, and it's to raise awareness and garner support for Jordan's defense.
You know, Juju, this case seems to be crying out for middle ground. I was watching the professor who seemed to make a lot of sense. It just doesn't feel right to treat him as a child or an adult here.
It does feel like all or nothing, and Pennsylvania is not one of these states, but there are 20 states across the country that give blended sentences that allow judges to make that discretionary call. Is it something that should be punished in a juvenile system or in an adult prison?
Okay, Juju Chang, thanks very much. Important story. Tell us what you think about it. You can weigh in on our shout-out board at abcnews.com.